In other videos, we've talked about how you can make changes, but what if you really want to help another person change? And if you've tried everything to try to get somebody to change and nothing's worked? Well, look, this isn't about trying harder. It's about trying differently. So today we're going to talk about 5 ways that actually work. Let me tell you about a woman I met in my counseling office some years ago, and I'll never forget her. She was sitting across from me and she was absolutely exhausted. She'd been trying for years to get her adult son to stop drinking, and she'd tried everything: pleading, crying, threatening, bribing, researching treatment centers, leaving articles on his pillow, and even staging an intervention. But nothing had worked. And she looked at me with those tears in her eyes and said, Dr. Bev, I just don't know what else to do. I've tried everything. And that's when I had to tell her something hard, but it was actually the most loving thing I could say. I said, You've tried everything except some of the things that actually work. You see, most of us have it backwards. We think that if we just push harder or say it better or find the right consequence, then we can make somebody change. That's not how human beings work. And honestly, it's exhausting for everybody involved. So today, I'm going to show you some of the 5 ways that actually do help people change, ways that honor their dignity and work with human psychology instead of against it. And hey, it might actually give you some peace in the process. So let's talk about number 1. Address the why before the how. So here's what I've learned after over 4 decades of helping people change. Nobody changes because you want them to. They change because they want to. And they only want to when the change connects to something that they deeply value. So, that mother I mentioned, she kept talking about her reasons her son should stop drinking: his health, her worry, family embarrassment. All valid, but none of those were his reasons. So, when we finally helped her son articulate his own why, that he was terrified of becoming like his father, and that he wanted to be present for his own kids, that's when movement started happening. So, before you offer one more piece of advice or solution, ask yourself, have I helped this person discover their own reasons for changing? What do they value? What future do they want? What pain are they trying to avoid? Because here's the truth: you can drag a horse to water, but you cannot make him drink. But if you help that horse realize it's thirsty and show where the water is, well, that's a different story. All right, here's the second way. Number 2, model the change that you want to see. I was once working with a father who was furious that his teenage son was always on the phone and never present at dinners. So I asked him, What do you do at dinner? Mhm. Long pause. Well, I check my work emails. Look, our actions speak so much louder than our words. If you want someone to be more patient, they need to see you practicing patience. If you want them to be more vulnerable, they need to see you taking some emotional risks. Or if you want them to prioritize their health, they need to see you making yours a priority. People don't change because of what we say. Any real influence we have is about who we really are and what we demonstrate is possible. So here's the bonus. When you model the change, you stop being the nagging critic. Who wants to do that? And you start being the inspiring example. You shift from adversary to ally. All right, here's number 3. Create safety, not pressure. This is the hardest one because when we're desperate for somebody to change, our instinct is to apply pressure. We think if we just make them uncomfortable enough, scared enough, or ashamed enough, they'll finally do something. But here's what actually happens: people dig in, they defend, they resist. Because pressure activates our survival brain. And when we feel threatened, we don't grow, we protect. Change requires vulnerability, and vulnerability requires safety. So instead of "you need to fix this," try "I'm here when you're ready to talk." Instead of ultimatums, try boundaries with love. Instead of criticism, try curiosity. Now, I'm saying there's never a place for consequences. Refusing to rescue someone is certainly valid. And I am saying, though, that lasting change doesn't come from fear, it comes from feeling secure enough to risk being different. All right, number 4, ask questions instead of giving answers. We've all done this. Somebody we love is stuck and we can see exactly what they need to do. So we tell them in detail, maybe multiple times, and they don't do it. Want to know why? Because people don't argue with their own ideas, they argue with yours. So when you ask powerful questions, you help someone discover their own wisdom. And their insights are about 100 times more powerful than your advice. So instead of "you need to set better boundaries with your boss," try "what would need to change for you to feel respected at work?" Or instead of "you really should start exercising," try "what used to make you feel strong and alive?" Or here's another: instead of "why don't you just leave him?" try "what would have to happen for you to know it was time?" These questions create space for people to think. Advice that fills space with our own agenda, it doesn't work. It's only creating space for them to think that actually leads to change. And here's number 5. Celebrate small steps, not just destinations. So here's where most of us blow it. We wait for the big transformation before we acknowledge anything. The alcoholic has to be fully sober. The angry person has to be completely calm. Or the workaholic has to have gotten balance. But meanwhile, they took a walk instead of having that third drink. Or they counted to 10 before responding. Or they came home for dinner twice this week. And we said nothing. Listen, change is built on momentum, and momentum is built on noticing progress, no matter how small. So when you celebrate those tiny victories, you're essentially telling someone's brain, yes, this, more of this. You're reinforcing that change is happening and that they're capable of it. I worked with a woman whose husband was emotionally distant, and she wanted deep conversations and emotional intimacy. And instead, he was giving her sports updates and the weather reports. But when he started asking her one question about her day before talking about his, she noticed it. She thanked him for it, and she told him it meant something. And slowly, over time, those small moments became bigger conversations. Changes are just small changes repeated over time. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Big changes are small changes repeated over time. So celebrate those small changes and you'll see more of them. So, quick question for you. Which of these five resonates more with a situation that you're facing right now? Drop it in the comments because I read every single one of those comments and I'd love to hear what you're dealing with. So let me repeat them in case you've forgotten. Here they are, 5 ways to actually help someone change. Connect them to their why. Model what you want to see. Create safety instead of pressure. Ask instead of tell, and celebrate every small step forward. So if this video was helpful to you, do me a favor, hit that like button and subscribe so that you don't miss any of our future videos. I post new content every week on healing and coping and living with purpose and leading with wisdom. So listen, one more thing. I know how hard it is to watch someone you love struggle. I know the helplessness and the frustration and the fear. I've been there. But here's what I also know. When you shift from trying to control someone's change to creating conditions for their change, something powerful happens. You get your peace back, and they get their dignity back. They may or may not choose to change, but you've created the conditions where real transformation becomes possible. And so, until I see you again, keep going, keep growing, and you'll come out stronger on the other side. See you next time.